Hello, hello! I'm Ashley Samuelson, the content strategist here at Ecclesia 360. I am so excited to be hosting our first ever church website revival. Thank you to everyone who submitted their sites. If your site wasn't chosen this round, we are planning on doing more revivals in the upcoming year, so resubmit. There's always hope that yours could be chosen. For today's revival video, I will be taking a look at 3 different church websites, just giving some initial insights, recommendations, quick wins, and just things that everyone can take home and apply to their sites as well. The first site that we're going to be taking a look at is actually Faith Christian Center. So we come up onto this landing page, and one of the first things that I noticed was this large image. They actually have an image rotator, but one of them that caught my eye the most was the image of this church. I think this is great. I think this is great to have a picture of who your people are, especially as we scroll down the site. Faith Christian Center has some text information about, hey, we're multicultural, we're a church family. So when someone reads that, there's actually a visual kind of communication method right there. So that's fantastic. I love that. One other thing that I was noticing, as we come to your homepage, you have some prime real estate. So as a user scrolling down, you have these, what I like to call on-ramps into the site. And generally, I recommend to think about your different audiences. So your new people, your members, and think about how can we get that content and kind of links and on-ramps into the site, into those different areas that the audiences need. Now, right now, I'm not exactly sure what the code is. I'm not exactly sure what Faith on the Go is. I'm sure that's maybe insider knowledge, but I might recommend maybe rethinking this area and think about how we can guide visitors into the site really quickly and have good next steps for them. Which we do have. I think you guys have an awesome I'm New tab. It looks like there's about 7 different pages that you have of just really great content, from, it looks like, a welcome message, kind of what to expect items, your map and service times. That's great. I think these are all really clear. I also love these visual graphics. It looks like you have new service times you're communicating, so that kind of plugs into your logo. So I see what you did there. One thing that I would recommend is, as you're thinking about your visitors coming to your site, you have about 2.5 pages that a user will click on. That's generally the average page clicks. So as we're thinking about this visitor who's trying to learn about who you are, this is a lot of pages and a lot of information for them to click through. So I might recommend getting together with your team and talking about what is the critical content that we want to communicate to our visitors. We definitely want them to come and visit us on a Sunday and make that next step. Well, what can we communicate that'll help them make that next step? What are the important logistics of Sunday service times, or what are the important what to expect items? And then bring that all into one page if possible. And then always having a great next step. It looks like you guys have a newcomers survey, which I'm a little curious about. At what point does someone fill this out? I think online surveys and online connection cards, I've seen a lot of those recently, so I think this is a great idea. There may just need to be a little more verbiage as far as what happens after someone fills this survey out. Where does this survey go to? What do you want someone to go to next? So even bringing that into some kind of I'm New landing would be helpful, which again, looping back to those on-ramps, have a good call to action of I'm new, plan my visit, just a good way to plug your visitors in. One other thing that I noticed on your homepage, you guys have some great stories, which stories are a huge trend for sites in general, but I think they're really the heartbeat of church sites, because it's a way to communicate who you are, what your values are, and how your community is living out that mission and values. One recommendation I might have is put a good hook right here. Make sure it's enticing so that someone wants to click into that story. Other than that, I mean, I think the stories are fantastic. I noticed that you guys even have some video stories in there. So if we can get some more video stories in there, those are always going to be visually more compelling. Now, one thing that I did want to point out is your Get Connected section. It is fantastic. The Get Connected section has good, clean drop downs and on ramps into how people can plug in. I don't think it's too overwhelming. It's easy to understand, good terminology. So I think that's fantastic. Even when we go into the volunteer section, this is kind of more for people who have visited a couple of times. They're looking into ways that they can plug in. So volunteering is a natural next step. So for you guys, it looks like you have an assimilations class. So maybe kind of a first step where someone learns about what it's like to volunteer. And then it looks like you have this backstage pass that is more so getting to know the actual serving scenes. Great call to actions there. I was curious though, what are the next steps? And more so in clarifying, is this assimilations class required? Does someone have to go through the backstage pass? So I might recommend maybe breaking down the terminology a bit more and making sure that more of your visitors will understand, and we're kind of educating them on those terms. And then another area that I might recommend is, do we have any kind of descriptions of what a building operations team is, or what specifically someone can do on a hospitality team? Though it's a good list, I think we could add some details, and also if we have any kind of personal connection. I know that's one thing that if someone's looking for a church home and they find a way that they can plug into the kids' world, well, on Sunday morning, if they know who that ministry leader is or that contact person is, they can go ahead and make that personal connection. And they'll use the website as kind of the bridge to help make that personal connection. So you also have some quick links, which it looks like some good opportunities for more of your members to use. And again, I really love all of the circles that you have going on. I think it really ties in your branding with the logo and just with the call to action buttons. So overall, I think this site is great. I think you guys have some details we could add in, but you're really accomplishing a lot and communicating who you guys are really well. The next site that we'll pull up is 224 Community Church. And this will be a fun one because they're actually a multi-site church. So they have 3 different locations in the Michigan area. Right off the bat, this site is very striking. Reasons being is the fonts are very bold and they're consistent. And not only are the fonts consistent within just kind of the web fonts, but also in the images. You have bold text, and what I also love, it ties it all together, is all of the branding that's within your image rotator. It looks really consistent as I click through each of those. The branding matches, the colors match. I really, really enjoy looking through each of those. So that looks great. As we come down the page, you also have some next steps, clicking into media and locations. And then it looks like you guys also have your mission statement again right here. One thing that I was curious about, I wonder what it would look like to have your mission statement right here of helping people take next steps with God. Maybe we can add a button here that says take your next steps and make it a little personal so that people can understand that's what they're here to do. This is what the 242 community does, and I want to take my next steps with them. So just food for thought on that one. What I was also wanting to spend some time talking about is your locations, which we have some clear location indicators up here in the menu. We can click into locations down here. And then I also love this, it's kind of like a Google Map image rotator. And I've actually never seen this on a site. I think it's really neat, and it has the service times clearly articulated. A quick win might be, instead of, I know right now it clicks over to, when I click the map, it opens up the Lansing detail page. I'm wondering if we can kind of think in terms of your mobile users, and if they're trying to quickly get an address to that location, maybe we can have that open up Google Maps and then they can start their directions just to make that a little more user-friendly, just kind of a quick win there. As we click into each of the location detail pages, that's where, due to my elementary school geography, I do know that Ann Arbor, Brighton, and Lansing are pretty separate from one another. Sometimes that's always something to think about when you have different locations. Will people know where those locations are? Do we need to communicate with a map? But these seem to be pretty distinct, so if someone's close to Ann Arbor, they know that's the closest location. Once they get to this campus page, it looks like you have some good on-ramps into getting involved with that campus and the kids and student ministries. I'm curious though, okay, we've got a map. That's another great feature. You have your service times and your campus map, your campus pastor. I'm wondering if we can potentially move these service times up above these on-ramps, because generally this is the first thing your visitor is going to see. So first and foremost, we need to get them the logistics. And then I'm wondering if we can have some good terminology based on the differences at each of the campuses. If it's the same, then I think this what to expect page works really well. It looks like you guys also have an I'm new page. Let's click into here and see what's going on. Okay, so we've got another welcome, a lot of information, a lot of text. So thinking of this as a mobile user, how they're coming into this, it might be a lot to scroll through. There's a possibility of maybe we break these into different pages of where your mission comes from and a beliefs page. And I'm wondering if we could even do a video. Instead of having a written text from your pastor, maybe we throw them in front of a video, do a quick 15-20 second intro. Videos are obviously a great connection tool, especially with social media. That is the major marketing ploy of moving forward with having promos of videos. So that might be a quick win just to bring some extra functionality in there. One other area that I wanted to check into is, let's go back to your home page, how people are connecting. So maybe they found the locations, they know where you're at, they're looking for their next steps. We click into this page, and your next steps page is a unique part of your site because it's one way that someone can get a quick snapshot of how they can plug into your church. And it looks like you guys have really clear next steps, the celebrate, connect, and contribute, which is in this image, which is great to see. I'm curious if we can maybe divide out and function the page or format it within the celebrate, connect, and contribute headline areas. And I'm wondering also if we can really highlight what are the primary next steps that you want people to take. Is it celebrate and visit us on the weekend? Is it connect and join a group? Is it contribute and find a team? Because right now as we go through the page, there's some classes we can click into, there's coaching information, as well as steps. I love this tabbed content. This is really fantastic. If you guys are not familiar with tabbed content, it is the future. It is an easy way to really kind of separate out content without having to link to a lot of different pages, especially if it's a WYSIWYG editor, which means you can have links, you can have videos and call to action buttons. So I love seeing this on your site. It looks like we also have some Bible studies, some life lessons, and Right Now media. But I'm a little curious of, I see groups and I see teams. Well, how do I get to each of those? And what is my ideal next step? So again, that's where we can maybe reformat this page under those umbrellas of celebrate, connect, and contribute. And maybe even have it, well, actually, let's see. I think I saw groups down here. Yeah, and have a button that links over to your group finder or has some clear next steps of these are the primary things we want you to plug into. Let's see, so I'm going to pop back over to the home page, and one of the major areas that I'm sure you see on your analytics is people going to your media page. And one fun idea that I had for you is right now people click into that media page. Or they can click into the series graphic that you guys have, which kudos to you, a little cultural relevancy with an ode to the Hulu TV show This Is Us. I love that. And I love that you guys have this as, hey, this is a current teaching series. So if someone's not familiar, they can easily identify that. But when we click into the media page, there we go, we're getting it loaded there. You guys have a beautiful media page, and I think you also have great graphics. When we click into the media player, it looks like you also have an intro video that goes with the sermon and also the actual sermon graphic. How neat would it be if we could pull this video and display it on the home page so that it shows the current series and people can play it right there? That way you wouldn't have to create another graphic for a home page. The graphic would be the thumbnail on that video. So that could be a bigger project than what you're willing to take on, especially if your CMS doesn't allow that. But if it is possible, it'd be great to just embed that most recent sermon video right there. It's a quick access for your members. They come to the site, they see the new video, they can watch it, turn it on, close their phone, and continue on with their day. Overall, I think this is a great site. I think you guys have a lot of good structure. It's simple, it's easy to use, good call to actions, and great branding. I think it's really great. The next and last site that we'll be going through is Life Church. So, Life Church, right off the bat, I think you guys have a great bold message of welcome. This is the first impression, and you're making a great first impression on people coming to your site for the first time. It's welcoming to your visitors. As they scroll down, they can kind of see what's happening, what you guys are involved with. I'm a little curious about service times. So I don't see any I'm new or plan your visit. I do see, it looks like you have service times and your address. One quick win would be, let's make that into a link and link over to Google Maps. Again, that way when you have someone coming to your site on a mobile device, they can click that and easily get directions on whichever app they want to use. As we come down, I think that you guys do have, I'm trying to look and see, we have a contact us button, that's great. You can have some mission statement items, and then it looks like it's broken down into kind of some life stages of on-ramps. I'm curious though about Sunday morning information, which is a little alarming as a new visitor to your site. I'm not really sure where to go. I do have this welcome message, but we want to make sure that in 5 seconds, someone knows where to go as a visitor. You have to watch this current series, which that's always a great option for people to feel the church out. So it looks like we have this About Us page. So we'll check this out and see what's on this About Us page. So some descriptions about the service. It looks like you have text from your senior pastor, again, for you guys as well. Maybe we can throw this into a quick video. That way we can have an image, kind of a visual connection of who Walt is and why he wants to communicate to the visitor. Okay, here we go. Now we've got some what to expect information, where your kids go. It looks like you've got some history info and then your different campus maps, which those can easily be updated with the Google embed code. So yeah, making this a little more interactive with that video will really help. One other area that I wanted to check into, you guys have next steps. So let's say someone has visited on Sunday morning. Now they know about the different ministries you offer, and you have these next steps. So we'll open this up and see kind of what's going on. It looks like it's a fast track classes. You have some quick descriptions about it. The class is from 9 to 12:30. And then we have a call to action button right here. Well, a call to action link, which this is a very important aspect of your site. If you have the option in your CMS to create call to action buttons, those are going to be key. And call to action buttons, they should stand out from the rest of the text on the page. Right now, this hyperlink kind of gets lost. It's harder to find. So visually, it'll stand out with color or the design. And you want to give your call to action buttons simple, verb kind of action items. So the action item I would give for this one would be register. That way it's catching the user's attention, and then it's also telling them what to do. You've learned about this fast track class. Well, now we want you to actually register and get involved. I am curious about what happens after the fast track class. I'm assuming that you'll talk about groups and serving and volunteering in that fast track class, but if someone doesn't take that, I'm curious how they get involved into those different ministries. It looks like you have some things going in the image rotator, like a volunteer listing and life groups. Okay, there's our life groups, and it links over to the group finder. It took me a while to find that. So what I would recommend, if we've got some really important next steps for people to take, let's make that really visible. Let's set this next steps navigation item similar to your ministry items. So it's ministries and you have your drop down. Let's do next steps and go into your fast track and have a link to your group finder and then a link to your volunteer listing. So say yes listing. It looks like you also have videos, so this is a huge kind of push there. Oh, I like the way this is set up. I like the column styles, and it looks like you guys are also utilizing kind of your logo within each of those areas. That's really neat. I like this page. It makes it easy for people to click into each of those areas. Let's see what we have on the detail page. Awesome. So again, another area where we can add a call to action button. And another tip that I always recommend is don't tell people what they're already going to do. We want to avoid that if possible. The only option they have for a call to action button is to click. We know that they're not going to highlight it. They may copy it. There's some actions they could do, but they're most likely going to click it, so we don't really have to have a click here. It looks like you have some good use of your headline fonts and different styles and your team descriptions. Again, making that into a call to action button will kind of guide people in. And then I might also recommend, similar to the other site, have a personal connection of who is the lead of this greeters team, and kind of making the connection for them online so that they can go then meet them in person. Yeah, I mean, again, if you add that into your next steps list, if someone wants to get involved, it's an easy access point instead of having to go into your homepage. But you guys also have, all three of these sites have had good just font branding. I think that looks great. It always brings kind of some cohesiveness to the page. The last item I would actually point out, you have care and prayer, share your story. And then you have a number and then a contact us. I am a bit confused if I'm calling this number to share my story. Am I calling this number to get care and prayer? There's kind of different audiences that you're reaching here. People looking for care and people who are just excited to share a story. So I might have these linked to pages where you can describe a little more in depth. And I also might link this to a contact us page, and maybe it's a form that someone fills out that they can just submit their questions to. That way you're not bombarded with calls into your church admin, which I'm sure your church admin would love that, to not have to answer the phone all day and actually get to do some ministry. Overall, I think this is a pretty solid site that's also responsive, so that's always a key item. Yeah, I think it's very fun to see all of the sites coming together, different trends here and there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out just a summary of what we talked about, some good takeaways for everyone else who received this video so that they can implement some changes, start some best practices, and then we'll dive into a couple of more sites on our next revival. Thanks, guys.